My name is Arlia Bennett. I am 35 years old. And until 3 hours ago, I believed the man I loved was building a future with me, instead of quietly rehearsing one without me. People think betrayal announces itself with shouting, slammed doors, or obvious lies. Mine arrived beneath soft golden lights, hidden behind a professionally edited photograph, wrapped in a smiling caption that made thousands of strangers congratulate a couple who had no business existing. I work in data analytics. My world has always revolved around patterns, numbers, and quiet evenings. I like plans that make sense, spreadsheets that balance, and relationships where trust grows through consistency instead of grand gestures. That was exactly what I thought Nathan Carter and I had. For 7 years, I believed we were creating a life together. Looking back now, I understand I was supplying the foundation, while he was secretly designing another house for someone else. Earlier that evening, I had been curled up on our sofa, half watching a documentary about volcanoes, while scrolling absent-mindedly through social media. Nathan had told me he would be attending a prestigious awards banquet for his event planning company. I had encouraged him to go alone, because networking mattered. I was proud of him, proud of the company, proud, because I remembered the tiny apartment where we first planned everything, on yellow legal pads spread across our coffee table. I remembered transferring $150,000 from my savings because I believed in his dream as much as my own. I remembered the sleepless nights, the business plans, the accounting software, the vendor negotiations, and the weekends that disappeared into endless work. None of those memories prepared me for the notification that appeared on my phone. Nathan had uploaded a new post. At first I expected another awards photo. Maybe his team. Maybe another decorated ballroom. Instead, I opened the image and forgot how to breathe. Nathan stood smiling beneath crystal chandeliers, while Vanessa Reed, his 28-year-old assistant, held out her left hand. A diamond ring sparkled beneath the camera flash. The caption read, "A night of 1,000 stars." And I finally found the brightest one. I said yes. Number, engaged. Love of my life. New beginnings. I stared at the screen for nearly a full minute. My brain rejected what my eyes clearly understood. Engaged. Nathan had kissed me goodbye that very morning. A distracted kiss. Quick. Absent-minded. The kind of kiss you barely notice until you realize it was already a goodbye. Heat rushed through my chest so violently I thought I might throw my phone across the room. Every instinct screamed for me to call him. To demand answers? To scream until my voice disappeared. Then, another part of me quietly took control. The analyst, the woman who had built an entire career, making decisions after emotions, settled instead of before. Rage destroys evidence. Calm preserves it. My hand suddenly became steady. Screenshot. Save. Screenshot again. The photo, the caption, every visible comment, every person already celebrating. Evidence always disappears. Once people realize they need to hide it. Then I press comment. I typed only one sentence. Congratulations. My attorney will contact both of you tomorrow. Regarding the assets, I read it twice. Then I posted it. No insults. No profanity. No accusation. Just enough truth to make every person reading pause. Next, I forwarded the screenshots to Nathan's parents. Richard, Helen. They had always treated me like family. My message contained only one sentence. I thought you deserved to know the same way I did. Less than 60 seconds later, the engagement post disappeared. My phone exploded. Nathan. Calling. Again. 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 Then, the text messages started arriving. Aurelia. Call me immediately. Delete your comment. What is wrong with you? My parents are hysterical. Take those screenshots down. You're destroying everything. Everything. That word lingered. Not us. Not our relationship. Everything. His company. His reputation. His carefully manufactured image. Then came the message that finally erased every lingering doubt I still carried. You've got some nerve, embarrassing me, and my future wife. Future wife. I slowly looked around the living room we had shared. Every picture on the walls. Every vacation souvenir. Every piece of furniture we had argued over buying. It suddenly felt like someone else's house. The volcano documentary had quietly continued playing in the background. The narrator calmly explained how pressure builds beneath the earth for years before anyone notices. Then, without warning, entire landscapes change forever. I muted the television. Nathan believed his engagement announcement had changed my future. He had no idea. It had also activated mine. Instead of answering his calls, I opened my laptop. A folder waited exactly where I had left it years earlier. Evergreen Events, LLC. Inside sat the operating agreement. My attorney insisted we draft when I invested my savings. I remembered complaining about legal fees. She had insisted documentation mattered more than trust. Now every page felt priceless. 70% ownership. My initial investment, repaid before any division of remaining assets. Multiple protective clauses. Nathan barely glanced at before signing because he said we would never need them. Funny how forever disappears when paperwork survives. Around 2 o'clock that morning the doorbell rang. Once. Twice. Then continuously. I didn't need to check the security camera to know who stood outside. Still. I opened the app. Nathan paced across the porch with frantic energy. His tuxedo wrinkled. His hair disheveled. His face swinging wildly between anger and desperation. I quietly opened another application instead. Our smart lock. His profile appeared. Fingerprint, authorized. Personal code, active. One button asked a simple question. Remove user. My thumb hovered for only a second. Then I pressed confirm. His access disappeared forever. Only then did I activate the intercom. It's 2 in the morning. Nathan. His voice cracked. Aurelia. Open the door. You should leave. This is my home. The deed says otherwise. We need to talk. You announced your engagement to another woman. You're making this much bigger than it is. I almost laughed. A public engagement announcement seems fairly big. He stepped toward the scanner. His thumb touched the sensor. Nothing. He frowned. Typed his code. The lock rejected him with a short electronic chirp. I watched through the camera as confusion slowly transformed into genuine fear. You changed it. His voice barely rose above a whisper. You locked me out. I'm protecting my property. You can't do this. I already did. The shouting began immediately afterward. Insults, threats, accusation, promises that I would regret humiliating him. I muted the intercom. Several minutes later, he finally walked back to his car. As the taillights disappeared into the darkness, I realized something unexpected. I wasn't crying anymore. The next morning, Richard called. His voice carried the exhausted disappointment of a father trying to repair something already broken. Aurelia. This public situation. Couldn't you have handled it privately? Richard. Your son announced his engagement to another woman while living with me. Silence. Then a quiet sigh. He made a terrible mistake. No. I answered gently. He made hundreds of decisions that led to one announcement. The conversation ended without resolution. That afternoon, my phone buzzed with a banking alert. A debit card connected to Evergreen Events had just approved a purchase, $2,800. Luxury handbag boutique. I froze. Nathan wasn't apologizing. He was preparing for war. I immediately contacted the bank. Reported the company card compromised, and requested an emergency freeze on the primary account. While the fraud department representative verified my identity, another notification appeared. $5,000. Luxury travel agency. Transaction declined. I had stopped the vacation. Too late for the handbag, early enough for everything else. As I stared at the alerts filling my screen, one realization settled deep inside me. Nathan wasn't simply leaving. He intended to burn everything behind him, and without realizing it, he had just handed me the first piece of evidence that would eventually destroy his entire case. A month passed, although it felt more like a year measured in court filings, attorney invoices, and nights where sleep became something I only remembered instead of experienced. The legal paperwork moved forward, exactly as my attorney predicted. Slowly, painfully, deliberately. Nathan immediately challenged nearly every provision of the operating agreement. His attorney argued that because we had built our lives together, Evergreen Events was really a shared marital-style asset. Regardless of the ownership percentages outlined years earlier, my attorney, Victoria Langford, had expected that argument before they even filed it. They're buying time. She told me during one of our meetings, sliding another stack of documents across the polished conference table. Delay creates pressure. Pressure makes people settle. I won't. She looked directly at me. I know. Those two words carried more reassurance than she probably realized. Outside the courtroom, Nathan had already begun fighting another battle. His reputation, or rather, Mina, mutual friends, slowly stopped replying to my messages. Dinner invitations quietly disappeared. People who had once smiled warmly at me suddenly acted strangely uncomfortable whenever we crossed paths. Eventually, I learned why. Nathan had built a remarkably convincing story. According to him, I had always been possessive. I controlled the finances. I treated him like an employee instead of a partner. My public comment beneath the engagement announcement had supposedly proven how unstable and vindictive I really was. What hurt wasn't that strangers believed him. It was that a handful of people who had known us for years accepted his version without ever asking for mine. Betrayal has echoes. Sometimes, they're louder than the original wound. Vanessa stayed almost completely invisible throughout those first weeks. She rarely posted anything herself. Instead, she quietly appeared beside Nathan in photographs uploaded by other people. Business lunches, networking events, vendor meetings. She smiled confidently, wearing the same diamond ring that had shattered my world. I noticed something else. She had begun introducing herself as partner, not girlfriend. Partner. The distinction wasn't accidental. It was strategic. About 6 weeks into the legal process, my phone rang while I was reviewing financial records. The caller ID displayed Carol Simmons. She had been one of Evergreen Events' oldest clients. We had planned her charity galas for years. I answered immediately. Carol, I hope I'm not overstepping. You never do. She hesitated. I received a very unusual phone call this morning. Every instinct inside me sharpened. From who? A young woman named Vanessa. I remained silent. She introduced herself as Nathan's business partner. My stomach tightened. She wanted me to terminate my current agreement and sign a new contract with another company. What company? Reed and Carter Events. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, Carol sighed. Something didn't feel right. What exactly did she say? She implied Evergreen Events was basically finished, that all the important staff had moved, and that continuing with the existing contract would create unnecessary complications. I closed my eyes. They weren't simply leaving. They were trying to take the clients with them before the legal ownership could be settled. Thank you, I whispered. I thought you deserved to know. After hanging up, I drove straight to Victoria's office. She barely finished reading my notes before looking up. This changes everything. How? They've crossed from relationship misconduct into business interference. For the first time since everything began, I watched genuine confidence appear across her face. Keep documenting. I already have. I know. She smiled. That's exactly why we're going to win. Still, the victories remained painfully small. Nathan retained control over nearly every public-facing digital asset. The company's Instagram account, the Facebook page, the website. Everything had been connected to his recovery email years earlier. He didn't post anything outrageous. That would have been too obvious. Instead, he manipulated perception. Positive comments mentioning me quietly disappeared. Older posts highlighting my contributions vanished. Testimonials praising Nathan remained pinned to the top. It was subtle, petty, infuriating. Digital vandalism, disguised as routine maintenance. Every request my attorney submitted to regain administrative control became another bureaucratic maze. Weeks passed. Then months. One rainy Saturday afternoon, I sat alone in my home office, surrounded by old hard drives, cloud backups, and forgotten business folders. I wasn't searching for passwords. I was looking for historical accounting records. Instead, pure luck found me first. Buried inside a shared cloud folder from nearly 6 years earlier, sat a spreadsheet with an embarrassingly simple title. Business passwords. I almost ignored it. Curiosity opened it anyway. My heartbeat accelerated. There it was. The original administrator login for Evergreen Events' Instagram account. Apparently Nathan had never updated the original credentials after creating newer recovery methods. I immediately opened the login page, typed the username, entered the password. For one agonizing second, nothing happened. Then, success. I was inside. My hands actually shook. I changed the password, updated every recovery option, removed unauthorized devices, enabled two-factor authentication, connected everything to a brand new secure email address. Within 15 minutes, the company's largest social platform belonged to me again. It felt strangely symbolic, like raising a flag after reclaiming occupied ground. That evening, I began documenting absolutely everything. Screenshots, deleted posts, unauthorized edits, account histories, clé communication, bank records, fraud reports, purchase attempts. Every piece fit together like fragments of a puzzle I hadn't wanted to solve. Around midnight, my phone buzzed. Nathan, for the first time in weeks, against my better judgment. I answered. So, he said coldly, you hacked the account. I recovered company property. You think you're clever? No. Silence. Then his voice hardened. You're ruining everything we've built. I looked around my quiet condominium. My future didn't start collapsing when I logged into Instagram. It started when you proposed to another woman. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Those words lingered. Not an apology, not regret, only disappointment that his carefully planned transition had failed. How was it supposed to happen? He didn't answer immediately. Finally, he sighed. You were supposed to let go. I almost laughed. So, your entire plan depended on me quietly disappearing. You would have been compensated. With what? You would have landed on your feet. The arrogance behind that sentence stunned me. As though years of loyalty, sacrifice, investment, and partnership could be replaced with a polite financial exit package. I already landed. I replied, I'm just standing somewhere you can't reach anymore. I ended the call. The next morning, Victoria reviewed the growing evidence file. Every fraudulent purchase, every attempted client transfer, every deleted company record, every misleading communication, every digital manipulation. She closed the folder slowly. They're helping us more than they're hurting us. It doesn't feel that way. It never does in the middle. She leaned back thoughtfully. Courts pay attention to patterns. What kind? People protecting businesses don't secretly move clients into new companies. She tapped the folder. People abandoning businesses do. That sentence stayed with me. For months I had focused on surviving emotionally. Only now did I realize Nathan wasn't simply betraying me. He was systematically undermining every legal argument his own attorney was trying to make. Ava so? Victory felt impossibly far away. There were mornings I woke, wondering whether walking away would be easier, whether selling everything, dividing the money, and disappearing would finally end the exhaustion. Then, another invoice would arrive. Another witness statement. Another email from a vendor describing misleading conversations with Nathan or Vanessa. Each one reminded me why quitting wasn't peace. It was surrender. Late one evening, I found myself staring once again at the screenshot that had started everything. Nathan smiling, Vanessa holding out her hand. Thousands of congratulatory reactions. Months earlier, that image had felt like proof my life was ending. Now it looked different. Not because the pain had disappeared, because I finally understood something. The photograph hadn't captured the beginning of their happiness. It had unknowingly captured the first irreversible mistake that would unravel everything they thought they had built. 10 months after that photograph appeared on my phone, the courtroom finally became quiet. No more emergency filings. No more hearings postponed because one side needed additional discovery. No more late-night emails from attorneys asking for another document buried somewhere in years of financial records. Just silence. The kind that arrives only after a storm has spent every ounce of strength it possessed. I sat beside Victoria as the judge reviewed the final decision. Nathan barely looked in my direction. Vanessa wasn't there. Neither was the confidence that had filled every photograph they had posted during those first weeks. The judge's ruling followed the documents almost exactly. The operating agreement remained valid. My original $150,000 investment had to be repaid before any remaining business value could be divided. Nathan's attorney argued once more that Evergreen Events had functioned as a shared relationship asset. Victoria calmly dismantled that claim piece by piece. She presented the unauthorized debit card purchase, the attempted luxury vacation, the records showing efforts to move existing clients into Reed and Carter events, Carol's testimony describing Vanessa's attempt to replace signed contracts, the recovered digital account history. Every exhibit told the same story. Nathan hadn't been trying to preserve the company. He had been trying to strip it for parts before walking away. The judge noticed. When the decision became final, Nathan received only his minority share, after every contractual obligation had been honored. The amount came to roughly $22,000. He also received his portion of the home's equity. It wasn't insignificant, but it was nowhere near the thriving company he had imagined taking with him. As we walked out of the courthouse, he finally stopped beside me. "You won." I looked at him for several long seconds. "No. This isn't what winning feels like." He searched my face, perhaps expecting satisfaction. Instead, he found something quieter. Finality. He opened his mouth as though another explanation might somehow rewrite the last 10 months. Nothing came. He walked away without another word. Most people assumed I would sell the company immediately, after everything that had happened. It seemed like the logical decision. There was only one problem. I still believed in what we had built. I just no longer believed in the man who had helped build it. Owning an event company and running one are very different things. I understood numbers, contracts, operations. I wasn't an event planner. I needed someone extraordinary. For weeks, I quietly met professionals across the city. Some interviews lasted 20 minutes. Others lasted 2 hours. Then, I met Amelia Hart. She was a senior planner at one of the city's largest luxury event firms. Brilliant, organized, creative without being chaotic, confident without being arrogant. Most importantly, every time she described a successful event, she spoke about the client's experience instead of her own accomplishments. That told me everything. "I don't just want to hire you," I told her over coffee. She looked surprised. "I want to build this company with someone who actually believes partnerships mean something." "What are you offering?" "A salary higher than your current one." She smiled politely. "And a clear partnership path." Now she leaned forward. "You'd actually share ownership if we're building something together." "Then yes." She stared at me for several quiet moments. I've been waiting years for someone to say that. 3 weeks later, Amelia officially joined Evergreen Events. The first decision we made together surprised nearly everyone. We retired the name. Too much history. Too many painful associations. Too many headlines. Instead, we introduced Augustin Affairs, a fresh identity, a fresh beginning. The first 6 months were brutally difficult. Nathan hadn't simply left. He had poisoned relationships. Before walking away, several longtime vendors refused to answer our calls. 2 respected caterers declined every request for collaboration. Rumors continued spreading that the company would eventually collapse. There were evenings. Amelia and I sat surrounded by unfinished proposals, wondering whether determination alone could keep the lights on. She never complained. Neither did I. We simply worked, one client at a time, one event at a time, one repaired relationship at a time. Then Carol called again. "I have another gala. We'd love to help. This one's bigger. Much bigger." Her annual charity gala attracted business leaders, elected officials, philanthropists, and journalists from across the region. Success would change everything. Failure would become public. Amelia accepted the challenge without hesitation. For 6 exhausting weeks, our office barely slept. Every flower arrangement, every lighting design, every seating chart, Every menu, every transportation schedule, every contingency plan. Nothing escaped Amelia's attention. The gala exceeded every expectation. Guests stayed long after the scheduled ending. Sponsors immediately reserved dates for future events. The venue manager hugged Amelia before we even finished loading equipment. Within days, the phone wouldn't stop ringing. The vendors who had ignored us suddenly wanted meetings. Businesses that once hesitated now asked whether Augustine Affairs had availability for the following year. Momentum had finally shifted. 2 months later, a major lifestyle magazine contacted us. They wanted to feature Augustine Affairs as one of the city's fastest rising luxury event companies. The article covered 4 full pages. Most of it focused on Amelia's vision, our team's resilience, and the philosophy behind rebuilding trust through professionalism rather than publicity. One photograph especially caught my attention. Amelia stood smiling beside our team, inside the same office Nathan had once proudly designed. Behind them hung Augustine Affairs' new logo. Below the article appeared a link to our Instagram account, the same account with 15,000 followers Nathan had once used to announce his engagement to Vanessa. Life has a remarkable sense of irony. News about Nathan reached me only through mutual acquaintances. His relationship with Vanessa deteriorated almost as quickly as it had begun. Financial pressure replaced excitement. Arguments replaced celebrations. Their attempt to launch Reed and Carter events failed within months. Too many vendors remembered. Too many clients had heard what happened. Trust is expensive. Once broken, very few people can afford to buy it back. Eventually, Nathan accepted a management position at an electronics retailer. Vanessa quietly left the city to live with her older sister after their business officially dissolved. I never celebrated hearing those updates. Their consequences belonged to them. Mine belonged to me. People occasionally ask whether I regret exposing everything publicly, whether I wish I had handled it differently. I usually think about that question for a moment before answering. If Nathan had simply ended our relationship honestly, there would have been no courtroom, no investigations, no financial evidence, no public consequences. He made thousands of choices before I made one. Mine simply happened to be visible. I am no longer the woman who watched that engagement photograph in stunned silence. I'm stronger, probably more cautious, certainly harder to deceive. I sold the old house months after the divorce became final. Too many memories lived inside walls that no longer belonged to the future I wanted. Today I live in a quiet condominium across town. My evenings have become peaceful again. Sometimes Amelia and I laugh about impossible wedding requests over coffee. Sometimes I review financial reports, while she sketches ideas for upcoming events. The work is different now, so the legal bills are filed away. The scars remain, but they no longer ache every day. Nathan wanted a brand new beginning with someone else. He got exactly that, just not the ending he imagined. As for me, I discovered something I never expected. Losing the man I thought I couldn't live without forced me to become the woman I never knew I could be.